My family's favoritism, a journey to self-discovery, everyone, and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm sharing a story that's been incredibly difficult for me to tell, but one I feel is important to share. It's about how family favoritism towards my adopted sister overshadowed my life, leading to a shocking revelation at my own birthday party. This isn't just a story, it's a journey through hurt, uncertainty, and ultimately, a path towards self-discovery. I'm hoping that by sharing, others who've faced similar challenges might find some perspective or even offer their own insights. The early years, shadowed childhood EM35, and family drama has been a constant in my life for as long as I can remember, but recent events have brought everything to a boiling point. My adopted sister, who's 34, is just 1 year younger than me. Our parents adopted her as a newborn, and we grew up side by side. You'd think that would create a strong bond, right? The reality was far from that. From my earliest memories, it was clear that my parents favored her. They showered her with attention, gave her anything she wanted, and hung on her every word. I remember being 5 years old, so proud of a sketch I'd drawn, only for my mom to dismiss it because my sister was reciting the alphabet for the 100th time. It might seem small, but it was a sign of a pattern that would define our family, dynamic for years. As we got older, the distance between us only grew. When my sister struggled with reading in elementary school, my parents spent hours with her every night. Meanwhile, I excelled in school but rarely received more than a casual good job on my report cards. In middle school, my sister had a dance recital, which meant my parents missed my science fair award ceremony. It was always like that. Her needs, accomplishments, and struggles always came before mine. I don't mean to say I was abused or neglected in the traditional sense. Our basic needs, food, shelter, were always met. But the emotional neglect was very real and deeply painful. Early on, I learned that the only way to get any attention in our house was to be perfect, to achieve, to excel. So, with an almost obsessive drive, that's exactly what I did. In high school, I was holed up in my room, studying for AP exams and filling out college applications. While my sister was out partying and hanging with friends, it paid off. I received a half scholarship to a prestigious university. Finally, I thought, this will make my parents proud. But on the day I left for college, instead of celebrating my accomplishment, they worried more about how my sister would cope with my absence. Finding my footing, a glimmer of hope college was eye-opening. For the first time, I was evaluated on my own merits, not in comparison to my sister. I made genuine friends who appreciated me for who I was, and I thrived both socially and academically. After graduating with honors, I landed a job at a prominent company. And with unwavering determination, I climbed the corporate ladder over the next decade. Every promotion, every achievement, was fueled by an inner voice still yearning for my parents' approval. I'm proud of what I've accomplished. I now work in a senior management role for a Fortune 500 firm, yet that pride is constantly mixed with resentment because my family never seems satisfied with anything I achieve. My sister, on the other hand, has never truly settled into a career. Bouncing between jobs, she still lives with our parents who provide her with both emotional and financial support. My parents might acknowledge my accomplishments, but it only seems to reinforce their favoritism toward my sister. They constantly make excuses for her lack of direction, saying things like, she's just trying to find her passion, or not everyone needs to climb the corporate ladder to be happy. Meanwhile, if my achievements are recognized at all, they're often met with a lackluster congrats. This dynamic has poisoned our family relationships. Family gatherings are a minefield of barely veiled bitterness and passive-aggressive comments. I've tried to talk to my parents about how I feel, but they always dismiss it, claiming I'm just envious or too sensitive. As for my sister, she seems to relish her favored position. It's often making disparaging remarks about me being married to my job or too busy for family. I've been in therapy for years, trying to work through these issues, build my self-esteem, and set healthy boundaries. But every encounter with my family seems to undo all my progress. I've considered cutting ties completely, but the thought of losing them, dysfunctional as they are, is devastating. The breaking point. A birthday bombshell this brings me to last. Week's events, which have forced me to reevaluate everything about my family relationships. As usual, my parents threw my sister a lavish birthday celebration. Friends, extended family, even some of her old classmates were there. Catered food, an open bar, a live band. The house was decorated like a wedding. For comparison, my birthday last month was a small dinner for the four of us, where most of the conversation focused on my sister's latest business venture, a petrolated social media app she believes will be the next big thing. When I tried to discuss a significant project I'm overseeing at work, my parents' eyes drifted away after about 2 minutes. At the party, I tried to blend in. I genuinely tried to be supportive of my sister on her special day, mingling politely with family and making small talk. But as the evening wore on, I felt the old bitterness rising within me. It wasn't just the extravagant celebration, it was the way our parents showered her with praise, how family members asked about her life while barely acknowledging mine, and how she soaked up all the attention as if it were her birthright. I found myself retreating to a corner, sipping wine. Trying to ward off the anxiety attack I felt coming on, my cousin, seeing how upset I was, came over. With genuine concern in her voice, she asked, "Are you okay?" For the first time that evening, someone had bothered to ask about my well-being. I started to reply, but my sister's voice cut through the crowd. She tapped her glass with a spoon and announced, "Attention, everyone. I'd like to make a toast." The room fell silent as everyone's attention turned to her. She was a little unsteady on her feet, her cheeks flushed, clearly having had too much to drink. But she still managed a convincing smile as she began her speech. At first, it seemed like a typical birthday toast. She thanked our parents for their love and support, thanked everyone for coming, and expressed her appreciation for the celebration. Then, her tone shifted, sending a shiver down my spine. "I'm especially grateful to Mom and Dad," she said, in a tone I'd never heard before. "They've always treated me better than their own daughter. Just look at this party. When was the last time they threw my sister a party like this?" My face burned as everyone in the room turned to stare at me. But my sister wasn't done. "But I guess that's because I've always been the better daughter," she slurred, a little more champagne-fueled. "Now, yes, my sister has a good career and makes a lot of money. But who do Mom and Dad truly love in the end? Who makes their life happier? It's not the icy, work-driven automaton who barely has time for family." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. The room was eerily quiet, save for a few uncomfortable coughs, and my sister's voice, which seemed to grow louder by the second. "You know what's funny?" she continued, her voice wobbling slightly. "Everyone always praised my sister's intelligence and her potential for success, but look at us now. I'm here with family and friends who genuinely care about me, while she's by herself, married to her job." I looked at our parents, hoping they'd intervene, put an end to this cruel performance. But they just sat there, looking uneasy, doing nothing to stop her. I'd never felt more alone in my life. My sister continued to ramble, tearing apart every aspect of my life, my appearance, my lack of a romantic partner, even implying I'd slept my way to the top in my career. With every word, I felt myself shrinking, years of repressed hurt and anger threatening to explode. The truth revealed. Aunt's intervention, just as I was about to burst into tears and felt I couldn't take any more. My aunt, my mother's sister, stepped forward. She had a determined, angry look on her face. She walked over to me, and as I stood there, she handed me an envelope. Her voice cut through the tension in the room. "Don't open this until I'm done talking," she said. Her eyes were blazing as she turned to face the crowd. What followed was like something out of a soap opera. My aunt revealed that my sister wasn't adopted from a foster home. She was her biological daughter. It turned out my aunt had gotten pregnant unexpectedly in her early 20s and wasn't ready to be a mother. Instead of ending the pregnancy, she'd asked my parents to adopt the baby. I thought I was doing the right thing. My aunt's voice trembled with emotion. I believed my sister and her husband would give my child a better life. I believed she would grow into a kind, caring person who was grateful for her life. Then she turned to face my sister, who had gone completely white. "Instead, you've grown into a conceited, self-centered brat who thinks it's okay to make fun of her sister in public." I've watched this family dynamic unfold for years, and I can no longer keep quiet about it. Chaos erupted. My sister screamed, demanding to know if it was true. Our parents were glaring daggers at my aunt, trying to calm my sister. Family members were pointing and muttering. And me. I stood there, clutching the envelope, feeling like the earth had vanished beneath me. My aunt's voice cut through the cacophony once more. I always thought that if my daughter was being raised by my sister, she would grow up to be a wonderful person, my aunt said with disgust. But obviously I was mistaken. No good person would ever try to make their sister look as bad as you just did. Then, turning to me, she instructed me to open the envelope. Inside was a blank check. My aunt told me to fill in whatever amount you want. I had planned to give this to her as a birthday gift, she explained. But after seeing how she's turned out, I have no interest in rewarding that behavior. My aunt then left, leaving a stunned silence behind her. It was short-lived. My sister lunged at me, trying to snatch the check. She was so hysterical that our parents had to physically restrain her as she screamed and sobbed. It was more than I could handle. I fled to my room, locked the door, and sobbed. Years of suppressed hurt, bitterness, and feeling inferior came rushing out. I ignored the banging on my door and the muffled arguments coming from downstairs, crying for hours. The aftermath. Crossroads, a week has passed and I'm still unsure what to do. I haven't left my room except for necessities. Despite my parents' attempts to speak with me, I find it hard to face them. My sister has alternated between begging for forgiveness and the check, of course, and sending me angry messages. A part of me wants to cash that check, disappear, and never return. I've spent my entire life trying to win the love and acceptance of people who seem incapable of giving it. Maybe it's time to give up trying. Maybe it's time to prioritize myself. But I also fear losing my family. As dysfunctional as they are, they're the only family I've ever known. The thought of living without them, going on vacation alone, having no one to call in an emergency is terrifying, and I have so many mixed feelings about my sister. On one hand, I'm furious with her for her actions at the party and for years of subtle insults. However, I can't help but feel a little sorry for her. It must be incredibly upsetting to learn you're adopted, especially in such a humiliating and public way. Does that excuse her actions? Not at all. But it makes things more complicated. Regarding my parents, I can't comprehend how they could have watched while my sister verbally attacked me. Were they simply caught off guard? Or does their lack of response reveal their true feelings for me after years of emotional neglect and favoritism? How do I even begin to process this? I feel like I'm at a fork in the road, and I'm unsure which way to go. Should I try to repair these broken relationships? Can anything healthy be built from such a toxic foundation? Or do I move on and try to start fresh, a life where I'm not constantly seeking unfulfilled approval? Reddit, I'm lost. I've tried my entire life to gain my family's love and acceptance, only to be rejected and humiliated. How do I proceed from here? Should I accept that some families can't be fixed? Or is there any chance for reconciliation? Any insight or counsel would be greatly valued. I feel like I'm drowning in hurt and confusion, and I'm no longer sure which way is up. Update 1. Setting boundaries. It's been 2 days since that terrible birthday celebration, and I'm still reeling. My aunt came to visit me this morning. She looked exhausted as she continued to discuss the adoption. She was young and scared when she became pregnant. It seemed like the perfect solution for my parents, who had been trying for another child to keep everything quiet. For years, she had been saving money, intending to transfer it to my sister when she was ready to be self-sufficient. After the party, she realized I was more deserving and gave me the blank check. I felt both guilty for taking something intended for my sister and justified that someone recognized the unfair treatment. Despite my attempts to decline, my aunt insisted, claiming it was back pay for emotional labor. That evening, I made a decision. I packed my bags, checked into a hotel across town, and left my parents a note. I needed time to think. Over the next few days, I ignored calls and messages from my relatives. I did some introspection, talked to my therapist, and consulted a financial advisor about the check. 5 days later, I sent my parents an email. I told them I needed time, but I was firm. Laid out my conditions for repairing our relationship, They had to admit 2 years of partiality. All of us go to family therapy. My sister apologizes publicly. They start treating us equally and stop enabling her behavior. They instantly responded, relieved, asking me to come home so we could talk. We decided to meet at a cafe near my hotel. It was a stressful encounter. My parents agreed to therapy and pledged to improve our ties, expressing remorse. However, they were reluctant to publicly apologize for my sister's adoption, claiming it was traumatic. I refused to back down, insisting she issue a public apology for her actions. We left with an uneasy truce. Everything but the public apology was approved by my parents, who said they'd talk to my sister about it. Over the next few days, the negotiations continued. At first, my sister sent irate messages and refused to apologize. But as I persisted, her tone started to shift. She apologized via text, saying she was unhappy and intoxicated at the party. I countered that the apology shouldn't just be for the party, but for years of nasty behavior. More angry texts followed, and then silence. My parents tried to mediate, offering solutions like a written statement or an apology limited to the family. I was conflicted. A part of me wanted to be forceful and demand the respect I deserved. Another part wondered if fighting was even worth it because it was so exhausting. My therapist reminded me that prioritizing my health isn't selfish. Setting boundaries, she stated, is necessary for healthy relationships. I've made the decision to offer my family one final opportunity to meet my demands. If they can't, I'll use my aunt's check to start over somewhere else, far from family strife and past hurts. I'm feeling both nervous and optimistic as I prepare to deliver this ultimatum. Whatever happens will shape my life and relationships in the future. I'm hoping I'm making the right decision. I will update you. I appreciate everyone's support. Knowing that I'm not fighting this battle alone is reassuring. Update 2. Prioritizing my well-being. It's been a week since my last update and things have changed drastically. I've decided to retract the terms I set for reconciliation, but not for the reasons you might expect. After days of arguing with my family, I realized their attempts at compromise were more about minimizing the damage than showing genuine regret. My sister's apology texts became increasingly manipulative, alternating between gaslighting and guilt-tripping. "You're tearing this family apart," she'd write, and then, "I don't even remember what I said at the party. Are you sure you're not exaggerating?" Meanwhile, my parents continued to push for a solution that seemed to ignore the real problems rather than address them. They objected to admitting their part in creating this unhealthy relationship, instead proposing a private family gathering where my sister would offer an apology. As the pressure mounted, I started losing sleep, constantly checking my phone, and getting nervous whenever it buzzed. It became clear that my mental health was suffering as a result of this negotiation. At that point, I decided to remove my conditions. Not because I believe they're irrational, but because I now understand that meaningful change can't be forced or negotiated. My family just isn't there yet, and it has to come from within. I wrote my parents a quick email. "I'm withdrawing my previous conditions. I need space and time to heal. Please respect my wishes and don't contact me for a while." They reacted with astounding speed. The volume of calls, texts, and voicemails on my phone surged. They even showed up at my office, and I had to ask security to escort them out. They also reached out to a few of my friends, trying to persuade me to return home. "We love you. Please come home. How can you do this to us?" "And your sister is devastated. She's not eating," were among the desperate, angry, and manipulative texts they sent. The emotional warfare has been nonstop. Sometimes the guilt is unbearable. Sometimes I question whether I'm exaggerating or if I should just go home and try to forget everything. However, I also recall the years I spent feeling invisible. Having my accomplishments disregarded and seeing my sister consistently favored. To help me deal with the stress, I've started seeing my therapist twice a week. She's been helping me set boundaries by blocking my family's phone numbers and configuring email filters. While it seems drastic, it's essential for my mental health. Right now, my workplace has become a haven. To avoid returning to my empty apartment, I've poured myself into tasks and stayed late at work. Some of my coworkers have expressed concern, noticing the change in me. even if I can't fully explain the circumstances. I appreciate their support. I still haven't cashed my aunt's check, though. It rests in my desk drawer, a constant reminder of the decision I must make. I feel like tearing it up to show that I don't need their money or approval. Some view it as a lifeline, an opportunity to start over somewhere new. I've begun looking at employment prospects in other cities and even other countries. The idea of a complete transformation is both exciting and frightening. Is it truly possible for me to start fresh and leave everything behind? For the time being, I'm taking things day by day, getting better at accepting the unease that comes with uncertainty, and having faith that I'll know what to do when the time comes. Some days are harder than others. Sometimes I miss my family so terribly that it hurts. However, there are also unexpectedly peaceful moments when I notice that my breathing is easier than it has been in years. I know this journey is far from over. There will be more emotional obstacles to conquer and more challenging choices to make, but for the first time in my life, I'm prioritizing myself. It feels right, but it's also unpleasant and uncomfortable. I appreciate all of your ongoing help and guidance. Having this place to process and share is more important than you may realize. When I have more to report, I'll provide another update. In the interim, I'm concentrating on getting better and finding my identity outside of my family's shadow. Update 3. Escalation and new support 3 weeks have passed since my last report, and things have significantly worsened. My sister unexpectedly showed up at my aunt's door last Saturday when we were visiting. We were taken aback. She stormed in, obviously drunk and furious, yelling, "You've ruined everything. You're trying to take my life after stealing my mother." The smell of alcohol was overpowering, and her eyes were wild. My aunt and I had to hold her back as she lunged at me. My sister made allegations, saying I had always been envious and had turned everyone against her. Even after everything that had transpired, the hatred in her voice was startling. I was shocked by my aunt's response. Her normally composed manner had vanished. "You need to leave now," she said forcefully, her face hardening as she dragged my sister out of the house. My sister resumed her tirade outside, attracting neighbors' attention. "My mother is not you," I heard her shout at my aunt. "I was exposed to you. You can no longer act as though you care." A few of the neighbors threatened to contact law enforcement. My sister eventually pulled away in her car. My aunt was clearly shaken. Inside, she revealed that she struggled with guilt over the adoption. During our hours-long conversation, she admitted she had believed that telling the truth would fix things, but she now understood that the harm was much more extensive. "I believed I was acting appropriately," she muttered. "However, I might have just made things messier for everyone." The incident has had far-reaching effects. Later, my parents called in a rage, accusing me of trying to ruin our family and inciting my aunt against my sister. I tried to explain things to them, but they refused to listen. Members of the extended family have taken sides, causing the family to become severely divided. What started out as a private issue has turned into a full-fledged family conflict. The intensity of it all overwhelms me. I feel guilty even though I know it's not my fault, but I also want to withdraw and start over somewhere else. Because of my sister's condition, my aunt is worried about my safety and has suggested that I stay with her for a bit. I'm thinking about it, but I'm afraid it could make things worse. I'm making an effort to remain somewhat normal throughout this whole ordeal. I try to look after myself, go to work, and see my therapist. However, this familial conflict is a continual burden. I wonder if this will have any repercussions. Is it possible for a family to overcome such ingrained animosity and rage? Is it better to give up, or is it worth trying? I'm trying to avoid getting pulled back into the pandemonium, and I'm concentrating on my own recovery for the time being. Even though it's difficult, I'm committed to finding a solution, whether or not my family is on board. I appreciate your unwavering support, everyone. You don't realize how much it matters. When I can, I'll provide another update, ideally with more positive news. Update 4. New Beginnings A month has passed since my last update, and I've made some life-changing decisions. Following the tumultuous incident with my sister at my aunt's place, I realized I needed to take immediate action to safeguard my mental health and create a future for myself. I've poured myself fully into my profession, asking my supervisor if I could move to another location to work for our company or take on more responsibility. I was surprised by how supportive she was. I'm currently in the running for a senior management job that would take me across the nation. It's thrilling, as well as frightening. Along with the opportunity to oversee a large project, the new position offers a substantial wage increase. To get ready for this change, I've been working 12-hour days, going to every training session I can, and networking frantically. My increased zeal has sparked curiosity among my coworkers, but I've been able to sidestep most inquiries. Few close coworkers are well aware of my predicament and have been tremendously helpful. Regarding the money, I ultimately decided on my aunt's check. I made the decision to cash it after giving it a lot of thought and speaking with a financial advisor. With the assistance of my therapist, I've been able to reframe it as an investment in my future, one free from toxic family dynamics. I've secured an apartment in my prospective city using a portion of the funds. It's a compact, contemporary space with a view of the city skyline. I've put the remainder into a diversified portfolio. I feel autonomous and financially secure for the first time in my life. The final separation from my family has been the most difficult aspect. All of their phone numbers and email addresses have been blocked by me. I've requested that my aunt not forward any of their texts. I know it's essential for my recovery, but it's been excruciating, like cutting off a piece of myself. Of course, there are periods of uncertainty. I occasionally feel inclined to call late at night, trying to make amends. However, I then recall the years of gaslighting, the ongoing sense of inferiority, and the violent altercation at my aunt's house. It makes me more determined to keep going. I recently began seeing a new therapist who focuses on estrangement and familial trauma. She has been assisting me in overcoming my sadness and guilt. To replace the family-centered customs I've left behind, we're concentrating on establishing a new network of support and developing new ones. Additionally, I've joined a support group for those who are separated from their relatives. It has been both upsetting and comforting to hear their stories. I've learned that I'm not the only one going through this, and that you can have a happy life without the family you were born into. Regarding my aunt, we have kept up our friendship while setting clear limits. She doesn't try to act as a mediator, and accepts my decision to break off contact with the rest of the family. Although her assistance has been priceless, I'm careful not to rely on her too much. I feel a mixture of exhilaration and apprehension about the future. Though intimidating, the idea of starting over in a new place, with a demanding new job and no family safety net, is also freeing. For the first time, I feel that I am living my life according to my own terms, free from societal norms and familial expectations. I've begun pursuing new interests and pastimes that I never had time for while I was preoccupied with family matters. I've joined a local hiking group. I'm learning how to cook, and I'm even thinking about painting. I've not felt this at peace in years as I pack up my apartment and get ready for this new phase. Yes, I am saddened by what I have lost, but I am also hopeful about the future. I'm no longer the neglected kid or the family scapegoat. I'm only me, paving my own way. I want to thank everyone for their support along this journey. You have no idea how much your words of support have meant. My last update will be this one. I should put this chapter behind me and concentrate on writing the next one. Good luck to me. Thank you for watching. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do so and hit the notification bell to stay updated with more shocking real-life stories happening around you.